Hi, my name is Katja. I run Lives Not Labels, which is a website dedicated to sharing stories about mental health. I am based in the UK and I am 35 years old. So I grew up in Staffordshire, which is quite a rural area, which is where I've lived pretty much all of my life. Had a really nice childhood. I think sometimes there's this idea that if you have BPD, you must have gone through massive traumas in your childhood. In my case, that's actually not really true. I was a really quiet child, really. Quite nerdy, so the kind of child really where people wanted to copy my homework rather than be my friend. For me, when I got my diagnosis of BPD, that was actually quite recent. It was 2021, but I've probably had symptoms of it going back to adolescence, really, about 17 years old. I was involved in quite a bad accident when I was 17, which involved me having to basically learn to walk again. I was off school for about 4 to 5 months, and for somebody who defined themselves as being a little bit of an overachiever, that was something that impacted me quite a lot. I would say the worst of it was between the ages of probably 14 and 25. So by the time I got my diagnosis when I was 33, I kind of felt like I'd lived through the worst of it, really. I started to seek help in 2015, but a problem that I kept coming up against was the fact that because I had a family, a job, my life wasn't too disrupted. Had basically just a really hard time getting people to believe that there was anything wrong with me. I was going back and forth with different agencies, different people. I would get referrals, get to the top of the list, see somebody, explain what was going on, and they would instantly discharge me. So that's why it was such a long process for me to get my diagnosis of BPD. I don't have all 9 of the symptoms, I only have 5, so I do hit that kind of minimum criteria. I do have schizoaffective disorder as well, so it is quite difficult for me sometimes to kind of work out which bits belong to BPD and which bits belong to schizoaffective disorder. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes with the mood fluctuations. You're not necessarily going to know that I'm up and down. I'm not particularly expressive in that sense, but I definitely feel all those emotions, and it can be quite exhausting just on a day-to-day basis, just being up and down all the time, even if people don't realise it's happening. To be honest, in terms of the BPD recovery, because I got my diagnosis so late and BPD is something that tends to improve over time, I kind of feel like I'd worked my way through it quite well before I actually got the diagnosis. I kind of found strategies along the way to be able to deal with it. For example, the one thing that I did that actually really helped me was about 5 years ago, I trained to be a teacher. Teaching was something that really helped me because it gave me that sense of identity. Also, the fact that the job is quite relentless as well. It keeps your mind occupied, so you don't have that time to sort of sit and think with your own thoughts. It was something that really helped me to give me purpose and structure in life, and I definitely have noticed that since I went down that career pathway, things have got so much better for me. I think it was actually talking about it that's probably the thing that I am most proud of being able to do. I put a post on my own personal social media like, this is my diagnosis, I've been told that I've got BPD. Surprisingly, I got quite a few DMs saying actually I've got BPD as well. So I was quite surprised actually at how common personality disorders were, because I had no idea that other people were going through similar things. So I'm really glad that I was able to speak out about it, because people have by and large been really supportive about it. So I really enjoy my job. So I teach languages, teach French and German. It's just something that I really enjoy. I get a lot of fulfillment with. One of the things that really makes my day is the fact that even when you're having a tough day teaching, there'll always be at least one thing that happens in lesson that's really funny, and that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, really. And I think as well it kind of keeps me young at heart. So for me, being active is really important. I remember when I was going through major mental health difficulties, people used to say to me, why don't you do some exercise? And I'd be like, you just don't want to hear it. But actually it's surprising how much it does help. So I do go to the gym quite a lot. I do a lot of running. I've done half marathons, volunteering as well. So I do spend a lot of time, as much as I can, trying to help other people. So I've done voluntary youth work before, and I also volunteer at a rescue centre for dogs as well, which I really enjoy, because who doesn't love dogs? Some of my long-term life goals are to continue with the Lives Not Labels project, That's actually really helped me in my own recovery from BPD, hearing other people's experiences. Also potentially a little bit of public speaking, maybe, when I'm not as anxious about speaking in public. But I do try and stay as open-minded as I possibly can in terms of things that come up in life, because I always like to try new things. I think the biggest tip that I would give to somebody with BPD symptoms is don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, ask for the help that you deserve, and in some cases, demand it. The things that make my life worth living, I would say family and friends, definitely. Teaching, I guess, knowing that you're having an impact on young people's lives. For me, teaching is something that is really important for keeping my own symptoms under control. My career is something that really motivates me in life. Hi everyone, so I have decided to record a second video just to give a little bit of clarity and a little bit of context into a couple of things that have changed since I made that interview. I spoke about having a BPD diagnosis. I did decide a few weeks ago that I wanted to seek a second opinion. I do have a new diagnosis now. So first of all, I don't qualify for a BPD diagnosis any longer. That said, I do still suffer with certain traits of borderline personality disorder, in particular things like impulsivity and emotional dysregulation, but the BPD itself is not as intense as it used to be, and it definitely doesn't cause me the huge amount of problems that it used to. So that has definitely been a very welcome relief. Schizoaffective disorder, the psychiatrist has decided that actually that's probably not the best label. So my new primary diagnosis is schizotypal personality disorder, which is a cluster A personality disorder. In terms of STPD, if you've never heard of it, I'll just give you a quick run through of the kind of typical symptoms that somebody with STPD might experience. So those things include strange thoughts and behaviours, unusual beliefs, social anxiety and a lack of close friendships, flat affect or inappropriate emotional responses in certain situations, odd speech and eccentric dress, paranoia, although the paranoia is not usually about the same kind of things that BPD is about. Strange ideas of reference, so having odd or bizarre interpretations of events that other people wouldn't necessarily read the same meaning into. For me as well, I do experience additional symptoms. The best way to describe those is almost psychotic-like symptoms. So I do experience delusions, very mild hallucinations, and for me, a paranoia is really around those kind of hallucinations and delusions. I do still experience BPD related paranoia around interpersonal relationships, interactions with other people. So you are aware, going forward, my diagnosis is schizotypal personality disorder with traits of BPD. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up because schizoaffective disorder is probably not the right label for what I am experiencing at the moment, and that isn't something that I would like to mislead people over.